companies are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into the vision of the metaverse.
Tech giants betting big on the metaverse.
The metaverse.
The metaverse.
What actually is the metaverse?
The metaverse.
The metaverse.
Metaverse. Metaverse.
If you make anything or you move anything, you create a carbon footprint. If we can simulate that infinitely in the cloud, we can make and distribute that product more effectively, efficiently, and sustainably.
There's water being used in almost every industrial process, and industries will need 100% more in the next 10 years. But with technology, we can further economic growth as well as managing our natural resources.
Digital models out of our factories have been unbelievably useful in the current environment to interrogate our supply chain, to reconfigure lines, shift patterns of production, and to do our planning and our modeling.
完全なるメタバースの世界は開発から設計ないしは試験までの全ての工程っていうものを仮想環境上で実行できます。
We are working really hard connecting all these bakeries, production lines, our logistics, transportation to provide visibility, traceability, and to be more efficient in the use of water, energy, from waste on every bakery.
Welcome. It's nice to have you all join us on our journey of how we're innovating together. It's not lost on me that it's tough to travel in these times, and I'm glad that you all chose to make the effort to come see us and spend time with us. This is a special group. We decidedly made this a more intimate setting, so thank you for spending the time with us. So without further ado, let's jump into this topic about the industrial metaverse. I think maybe before I go straight to the industrial metaverse, it's maybe worth us having just a moment on the metaverse term itself. As you probably picked up from the video, there are a lot of interpretations of what this thing even means. If I took you all out of the room and said, hey, give me your best definition of the metaverse, and then brought us all back in here and read them back to you, we'd probably have at least 25 different definitions of what it even means. And so for the purposes of this talk, let me frame it, at least in the way Microsoft looks at it. We see three realms, if you will, in the metaverse: a consumer realm, a commercial realm, and an industrial realm. And I'm going to kind of briefly introduce all three and then dive deeply into the industrial metaverse. On the consumer side of things, it's all about creating new immersive experiences, largely for entertainment purposes and gaming purposes. In fact, this is a big part of our business. We see a future of needing to create those immersive experiences as a part of our gaming community. It's already happening today. There's, of course, a commerce model associated with how people will interact in the consumer metaverse. And because of our interest in gaming, we'll be creating a tool chain and a marketplace for how B2C companies can interact with their customers. And think of it as a bit of an omni-channel play, right? It's the next dimension of omni-channel. And look, depending on your business, it may be applicable to you and may be worth investing in that area. The commercial metaverse kind of takes the same concept and brings it into business terms. And so if you think about immersive and inclusive ways to ideate, to create, and to collaborate, the commercial metaverse is meant to really enrich those experiences. And so take a retail scenario. Let's say we were having a discussion between a consumer goods company and a retailer, and we wanted to virtually explore all of the places around the world where products were assorted in the limitless aisles and feel great about how the product were represented or not. We could all sort of don mixed reality headsets and instantly be teleported into those environments and have immersive and again inclusive, because everybody's sort of on a level playing field in the metaverse, to be able to explore scenarios for improving business relations. And so it's of course an area where we'll be building more assets, and you can expect us to deliver these types of immersive experiences in the commercial realm. We're doing it today with partners like Accenture. At the World Economic Forum a few weeks ago, we actually had a virtual World Economic Forum display where you could actually be enriched in some of the key sustainability development goals that they have. So that brings me to the industrial metaverse. And so what is the industrial metaverse? Think of this as the combination of some core technology sets. It brings together IoT, large data stores in the cloud, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and digital twins, and connects human beings to physical systems, okay, and allows humans to interact with physical systems in a digital feedback loop, where the models can teach the people, and the people can teach the model, and drive efficiencies across any manufacturing, supply chain, or distribution process. The knock-on effect of this is to create massive efficiencies in any process flow, and at the same time, improve your sustainability footprint across your business. If you think about it, if you make anything or you move anything, you create a carbon footprint. If we can simulate that for you infinitely in the cloud, before you make it or before you move it, we can create a better product, a better process with less waste, less water consumption, better products more sustainably. And it does have that duplicit effect. In fact, the hundreds of customers that we're working with today are actually recognizing those gains. And so whilst we can sort of step back and say, is the metaverse, is it a real thing? Is it actually really going to take foot or have any progress in the consumer realm or the commercial realm? In the industrial realm, it is here and it is now. And a lot of our customers are seeing real world benefits from it. And so I want to dive in deeply into the scenarios where we're exploring great work with customers and share them with you to hopefully inspire some of the same work with each of your companies. So there are three core scenarios in the industrial metaverse where we're seeing massive gains in productivity and efficiency and sustainability. And it's how you design products, build products, and operate supply chains, operate manufacturing facilities, operate distribution networks. Across the board, again, you can have these experiences where the human interaction is such that you're infinitesimally close to the physical object you're operating on. So you can have experts from around the world collaborating on design principles. You can have experts from around the world thinking about the build process. You can have humans interacting with machines at higher levels of efficiency and safety. And I want to take you through some of those scenarios. And then finally, on the operations side, the beauty of this notion of a digital feedback loop is it's recursive. We use reinforcement learning principles to allow the model to predict the best outcomes, to have the people test the model, and be empowered with the digital capabilities on the front end. A big part of this is the notion of democratizing the digital experience, not just pushing it down, but allowing the people on the front lines to be immersed in it, and then coming back and recursing and improving the process. And those that have been on this journey with us now for several years are seeing material gains, savings in the billions, progress towards net zero, progress towards water positive. And so I want to kind of unpack each of those scenarios with a customer example. The first of which is our partnership with Equinor. We've been working deeply with Equinor, and we have a video to share with you in just a moment from Hege Skuriseth, who's the EVP and head of technology and digital and innovation. And she's going to share with you how they're using the industrial metaverse to design these mass-scale wind farms and do them as effectively and efficiently as possible. So let's go ahead and roll that video.
There's nothing more important today than the energy transition in the world. We need more renewable energy faster. Equinor is a leading international energy company. Our goal is to become a leading company within offshore wind, and Microsoft technology plays a vital part into making that transition. Designing wind farms hold a lot of complexity. So just imagine the blades are 105 meters long. It's far out in the ocean. You need to cable to get the power back to shore. Sometimes you use floating wind farms, and all of them has to play together in a cost-efficient way. The industrial metaverse is very important for us going forward for the whole concept selection phase, which is basically designing the wind farm. You can bring all the various data sources together and you can choose and test concepts based on simulations. Our goal is to operate a virtual wind farm before it's built. By using these tools, we can first and foremost design the wind parks, but also in the future build, operate and maintain in a sustainable and cost-efficient manner. This is very important for building sustainable solutions for the future.
So my next example is near and dear to my heart because I'm a car guy and I love cars. And yet at the same time, I'm passionate about sustainability, and that's been, even at a personal level, something that's been a bit juxtaposed in my life. And so I'm thrilled with our partnership with Mercedes-Benz because it's sort of allowing us to live the dream of creating great automotive experiences that are also sustainable. I had the opportunity to tour the facility called Factory 56 in Sindelfingen, Germany, which is just outside of Stuttgart, where Mercedes-Benz is using digital twins actively in the build process. What's most unique about this facility is it's the only one in the world where simultaneously you can see the energy transition happening in front of your eyes, because one line produces the S-Class, the Maybach limousine, and the brand new EQS electric vehicle. This was super critical for Mercedes in their strategy because most companies that are creating electric vehicles have to build new factories from scratch. And if you actually look at the carbon footprint associated with the factory build, you have to churn out a whole lot of electric vehicles before you're net zero, even in the factory build process alone. So they've been able to accomplish, using digital twins, a fantastic, harmonious orchestration between human beings and physical objects. The Azure Digital Twin runs the factory in Sindelfingen. So if you and I happen to be high-end upholsterers working on the line, we stay put. We don't know whether the next car coming down the line is an S-Class or an EQS. We're just really great at building world-class interiors. The digital twin knows what's coming next. The digital twin orchestrates a set of robots that deliver the seats that go in the car that's being specified. And the complexity in all of this is fascinating. There are 70,000 different possible combinations in each Mercedes-Benz vehicle, and every year there are only 2 that are created exactly the same. So by using digital twins to optimize the process, they're of course increasing their yield, but they've also brought down their energy consumption, they've reduced their waste, and they've actually improved the safety of the environment. So we've been able to study human behaviors because of that digital feedback loop. We've improved the ergonomics of the environment. You can tell that when there's certain parts of the assembly line where it's better to actually rotate the car versus having people work upside down most of their day. It's far more effective in terms of worker satisfaction as well as producing better vehicles. So they've done a fantastic job. They think that the total net yield of savings will be over 20% in terms of efficiencies within the first year of operations. So these systems pay for themselves very, very fast. My last scenario is with the Coca-Cola bottling company. So we've been working with Coca-Cola and their network of over 250 bottlers around the world, because if we can improve these types of processes in their operations and make a real impact on efficiencies and sustainability, the repeatability around the world across the network of bottlers is enormous. So I had the opportunity to visit their facility at Edestal, which is a small town outside of Vienna, where we did a 13-week MVP body of work. We had our team come in and build out a sensor fabric, load up the data lake in the cloud, and build the digital twins, all frankly with a high degree of skepticism, because the team on the ground said, look, this is our most efficient, most effective bottling facility in the world. We have laser-guided forklifts. We have some of our very best bottling equipment in this facility. So if you think your digital twins are so great, put your money where your mouth is. And we did. And within 13 weeks, we dropped the energy bill by 10%. And so if you think about the multiplying effect, the iterative learning effect on the processes, and then being able to scale that around the world, we're talking about a real impact here at scale. And so I'm really excited about this one because we actually have a live demo to share with you what that environment looks like, what the digital twin environment looks like, how we've infused the model with the people and how we interact. And I have our ultimate guru on the topic here, Morgan Winter, to take you through it. She's off to the side because of the way we use the HoloLens capability. It needs a reflective surface, so we can't have her on stage here in front of the screens. You sort of get this sort of infinite metaverse loop, if you will. But Morgan, take it away, please.
Thanks, Judson. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be with you here at the CIO Summit to show you our custom-built HoloLens application, leveraging Microsoft Mesh to visualize CCH's bottling facility in Edestall. So let's dive in. So as we load into this immersive digital twin, we see a global view, and all of these markings that you see in green represent the different bottling facilities that Coca-Cola has across the globe. But as Judson mentioned, we're going to focus on Edestall today, so let's dive in there. And here we can see the factory floor. This is actually one of 3 lines that they have in Edestall. And here represented, we can see all of the different elements that it takes in one assembly line. And as I click on each one of these elements, we're not just seeing real-time IoT sensor data, but this is data that we've worked with Coca-Cola to clean, and we're actually getting the full operational output of energy consumption for each one of these individual machines, which is pretty incredible and good to know on a granular basis how each one of them reacts. But what's better is to know how the whole system interacts. So if I take a couple steps backward, I can actually call in an AI assistant, and she can do that for us.
Hello. Bringing data from disparate systems into a single view improves the ability to make data-driven decisions. Here we can see the current overall output of energy, water, and CO2.
So we created this AI assistant using Azure Bot Framework's neural text-to-speech, as well as various performance capturing tools. But this data was usually shown in graphs and charts, and by having her convey it in a more conversational way, it's way more intuitive for people to understand. But she can also show us alerts and actions to take on the system. So, assistant, show actionable alerts.
You have an alert on one of the elements. Showing it now. Here is a comparison of CO2 emissions with energy usage. In this view, we see the correlation between energy consumption, the operating state of the machines, and CO2 emissions. Lowering temperature and pressure settings could reduce energy consumption by 9%.
So now that we have these data-driven recommendations from our AI assistant, we can go talk to the various teams on the ground, either in Mesh or Teams, and discuss whether we can implement these changes. So if you want to check this out for yourself, I'm actually in the hall for the rest of the day, so come try it on. Back to you, Judson.
Super. Thanks, Morgan.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So as you can see, the opportunity to collaborate and look across a system of systems in this environment is super powerful because instantly we can connect bottlers from around the world, plant managers from around the world to share best practices in automation and optimization. So incredibly powerful. The other thing I will point out is the complexity of the systems, even in modern environments where you have very modern smart machinery at each phase along the way, the interoperability and the connectedness of the end-to-end system is typically not solved for, right? And so by building these full twins so that you can optimize the process so each machine understands its inputs and outputs and its effect on the system is really where we start to get the powerful gains. And I'll talk more about the partner ecosystem in just a moment. But to sort of maybe pop out of the metaverse as well and maybe like into the real world, I have 2 special guests joining me from Grupo Bimbo They're one of our co-innovation partners in this space. The complexity of their scenarios I find to be fascinating. They have nearly 200 bakeries around the world that operate in 33 countries with over 57,000 different logistics networks. And so everything from baking the product to distributing the product in a timely fashion, given the perishable nature of the same, is critical, and digital twins are helping to optimize that process. So please join me in welcoming Antonio Parra and Juan Peon to the stage. Hi, Juan. How are you?
How are you?
Antonio, how are you?
Good to see you.
So, Juan, let's dive in and start with you. Quite a journey to solve for the complexity of your operations and have real-world pragmatic impact on the same. So maybe just tell the audience a bit about the journey you've been on at Grupo Bimbo.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me. Probably I was talking to some of our colleagues, and they don't know Grupo Bimbo much, but they know our products. So Thomas English Muffins, Entenmann, Sara Lee, Oro Wheat, and so much brands all over the world. But going into our journey, it was quite a journey for the last 3 years that we are building all these capacities and foundations for what we want to achieve, which is a real industrial metaverse. First is sensoring our plants. You've been in Guadalajara Bakery.
Indeed, yeah. Sorry, I missed to share the photo op. Actually, I have to say it was the sweetest tour I've been on for sure.
So our latest bakeries and production lines are really high performance, very sophisticated. They come with native sensors and a lot of technology, but we have a huge variety of plants in our more than 220, around 220 bakeries all over the world. So there are a lot of analogical technology and stuff. So first, it was just a matter of making sure that we have the right sensors in every single production line all over the world. So we have been building that capacity. Then the data, which was really important. Entering into this kind of journey without taking care about the data is almost a sure failure in the future. So it was not only curating the data that we have as part of the industrial Internet of Things strategy, but also we were deploying other initiatives at the same time. So we are actually migrating our ERP to the cloud. We are replacing some of our legacy systems with new SaaS systems. So all those initiatives were contributing to standardizing that data. That was going to be the main foundations for what we actually have today, and probably we're going to be sharing during the rest of the conversation. Then, of course, enabling our frontline workers in this digitalization era. So we don't want to leave anyone behind. Usually the guys in the offices or with the administrative works, they are too much in touch with the new Teams and all of the technology, but those guys, either in the production line or our salesperson, were the ones a little bit behind these trends. So we deployed Teams in our bakeries, and Antonio has a very, very good example to share. And last but not least, cybersecurity.
Yep.
So all this digital transformation journey and every single initiative we are doing around this is creating a lot of really good opportunities around productivity, but it's also opening the doors to new breaches. And this is we are also taking care about our cybersecurity strategy on an industrial base.
Yeah.
And change management was fundamental as well. We are changing the way we work for the last 75 years, and it was a very successful story. So sometimes it's really hard to change the way we work when we were so successful in the past. So change management is also instrumental in everything we want to achieve, apart from reskilling our associates for all these new technologies that are coming their way.
Yeah, I think that's so critical, right, in the technology adoption curve, and that's why the democratization of the experience, bringing the frontline workers along on the journey, bringing the bakery managers along on the journey, so critical. And like, you've done a phenomenal job. It's a lot of work, and you've made a lot of progress in a short period of time. But maybe, Antonio, for the sort of the business payoff, right? Because we always talk about these things being very pragmatic in approach, right? We don't create digital twins because they look cool, although they do look cool. We create them to have an impact on the business. So what have you seen?
So this is really interesting in terms of how things are evolving. In the past, we used to design to last forever, right? And now we're designing and building for change. And that it brings a new dimension to everything we're doing. So, for instance, the throughput and the capacity of our plants, with the new information that we have been able to probably reduce a 10 to 15% of our capex annually, because we're getting the information, using it, taking the information from our digital twins, not only at the factory or the equipment level, but through the supply chain entirely. And you're playing a significant part of it. And going to the digital twins, not too long ago, because we've been working with them for about 5 years, 6 years now, it took months to develop one. Now with the right information source from our ERP into the cloud, everything, we can do it almost in a fly, right?
Yep.
We do not see too far the moment in which we're in an S&OP, Sales and Operations Planning meeting, with a question, and then having it answered on how we have to reconfigure our teams, our equipment, to make things different. So that is bringing a phenomenal success in terms of changes in productivity, changes in maintenance, and we are also looking at very good things in terms of environmental performance, water, energy, and so on.
That's great. Let's talk about the frontline worker and the people in the bakeries. It was a great tour. It was great to be able to be there with you both. It's talk about a proud bunch of people. I mean, that you create products that make people smile. So what's been the impact for the folks on the front lines?
So you would think that there's going to be a rejection for it, but quite surprisingly, the people are really open to embrace it, particularly at the front line. Sometimes we have more challenges with the managers. That's kind of a surprise. But when we go to the front line, they are understanding that these are tools that will take their job to the next level, that they have the chance today to start learning and working with the tools instead of having the tools coming and displacing them. In Grupo Bimbo, we have a very strict emphasis on the person. So we are going to take the person, the individual, to the next level, allowing everybody to work with a new technology, the augmented associate. Now, that's in the making.
Yep.
It's going to be changing. We don't know what's going to be the end state, if there's ever an end state.
Yeah, super interesting.
And let me share some example, Judson. So usually the master baker who actually starts the production line every single day, of course we have a formula, we have recipes, but that changes on a daily basis because sometimes it depends on the quality of the raw material we receive. Sometimes it even depends on the weather conditions, whether we are in summertime, whether we are in wintertime. So now we are using data to actually predict what is the most accurate way to start the recipe for that day, which in the past was exclusively depending on the experience of the master baker.
Right.
So now they are trusting the data, and we shadowed that process, and in the end they were convinced that the information was so accurate that they can actually trust the data and start using it for their own daily operations. So that is a great example and how people is starting to trust the data, the process, and we can change the way we were working. So
that's super.
So expanding that idea, we have been able to work with the mills. We're the largest wheat flour buyer in the world.
Yep.
So with helping to understand the capabilities of the process with our IIoT, we have been able to go back and understand what are the ranges on which each mill can produce flour that will perform well in our lines. And that's changing a lot in terms of quality, in terms of waste, and that's fantastic because one of the things we're really looking forward is to reduce the amount of waste. Waste in food should not go
for sure.
hand in hand.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this is there's a business impact. I think there's actually an employee impact because the people in the environments are actually having a more enriched experience, and then there's a societal impact as you're pointing out, which is really great. So Juan, maybe you can sort of wrap us up here a bit. I talked about sort of three main scenarios in the industrial metaverse: and design, build, and operate. We obviously went right after operations in our first bit of co-innovation with you, but how are you thinking about the design and build phases, and what are your aspirations there?
No, I mean, it's going to be instrumental. The industry is talking a lot about control towers, intelligent supply chain hubs. So everything we're building is just preparing us and setting us, and we're already working to build those control towers along our different regions and a global scale. So now we are able to design our production lines, our bakeries, our processes, our engineering in a different way. We are actually building that capacity. Tonio mentioned regarding sustainability. So we're going to be able to actually be sustainable by design. And not after the fact. So we have huge commitments around that, and we are actually co-developing with you, Microsoft, for Cloud for Sustainability. So that is really important for us. And we are also leveraging the IDM, the Industry Data Model, in order to standardize that. So we are going to be using a lot of labs in order to test, design, even using the digital twins. First in the metaverse world, and then transition to the real world. So a lot of things coming our way, but again, it's instrumental for our control tower aspiration and how we want to operate in a more predictive way. Our strategy is go from a connected supply chain, and I would probably say even value chain, even getting to the doors of our customers. Then we want to move, and we are already doing in parallel, going into a predictive value chain, and eventually going into a cognitive one by the use and application of artificial intelligence, and like Tonio was saying, augmenting the capacity of our associates with the use of technology.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you both for joining us. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the partnership and appreciate you being willing to share it all with the audience here today. Thanks.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you, Antonio.
Thanks, Justin.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. So I want to summarize and then open it up for questions that you all might have. Hopefully what you're gathering from this realm of the metaverse, the industrial metaverse, is that this is here and now technology. And we have the ability to actually impact a great deal together as an ecosystem of our partners and customers operating together here, because we can drive efficiencies, we can drive bottom line improvements, and we can drive sustainable outcomes together. I also want to give a bit of a a set of sort of actions of like how we think we can be engaging on this journey. Juan talked a little bit about their journey, and there's some pretty critical and consistent steps that we see that our customers that have been taking advantage of the industrial metaverse have really been leveraging. I mean, the first being building out the IoT fabric, the sensor fabric, and digitizing the environment. Centralizing the data estate in the cloud so that you can reason over it. Then building out the visualization layer, the digital twins using machine learning and AI. Then there's two other really critical steps that really make this digital feedback fly, if you will, this sort of flywheel turn. And that is empowering the front lines, giving them the technology and tools they need to connect and collaborate, right? So that from the boardroom to the front lines, there's this seamless flow of collaboration. And then step 5, democratizing that experience using low-code, no-code capabilities. We've actually run thousands of Power Apps clinics for factory workers because they're closest to the process that they do each and every day. And we've taught them how to build their own apps that connect back with the model. And the passion and the energy that comes from that, the flow of collaboration that occurs is just such a wonderful thing to see, because you're sort of igniting that inspiration and the flow of engagement. And then the final piece is securing it all. Of course, you have to lock down these digital environments. We have the IoT capabilities in Defender and the overall security fabric to make these cyber hardened so that they're secure in your environments. But these are 6 things you can go and do now with the capabilities that we have in market and the areas where we'd be more than happy to co-innovate and co-develop with each of you. I do want to give a nod to the fact that there is no factory on the planet, at least that I have seen yet, that is greenfield. And so if you're sitting back in your chair going, hey, this all looks great, Judson, if you're starting from scratch, but like we're not, you're right. We're all talking about varying shades of brownfield. And so we have a strong network of partners. There's no 2 factories created alike. There's an assortment of equipment. And so we're working very diligently to define standards for the industrial metaverse. I myself sit on a board of the World Economic Forum and helping to shape these standards, both from the data layer through to the visualization layer. And so it does take an ecosystem, and that's one of the things we feel is our role here at Microsoft, is to create that ecosystem to make it come to life. And last but not least, again, just to sort of hammer it home, this is real. It's here and now. I think Melanie's in the audience. We were talking about this a little bit on Tuesday night at the reception, but we have customers in varying stages, from MVPs to full factory deployments, probably the largest of which is Unilever, with whom we've been collaborating for the most amount of time here. They have over 100 factories deployed worldwide and at scale, driving massive efficiencies and hitting net zero targets across their business. So we're excited about this space. I'm personally passionate about it and wanted to share it all with you today, because despite all of the sort of hoopla and sort of fad talk about the metaverse, I think this realm is here and now, and I think there's a lot of great work we can go do together in this space. Thanks. Have a good day.